Welcome back to another Honest Gaming Review. In this episode, let's talk about Battlefield 3. So, I absolutely loved this game. This is 100% my type of game. I love combat games. That's really where I started with playing video games. It was the first video game I picked up was the original Call of Duty, and so I love these kind of games. However, there was a couple of slight issues with this game, but nothing too bad, really. I mean, just yeah, not really anything super bad. I loved the game. I loved the story. The way it played out was absolutely fantastic. It was just smooth sailing almost all the way through. Uh, really, the biggest issues I had with that game just weren't that big of issues. I'm also an avid military fanatic, and while I haven't served in the military, most of my family has served in the military. So I kind of like to respect the military the way that I can. And this game, one of the issues I found with it was that none of the soldiers in this game had rank or division patches on their shoulders or on their uniforms anywhere. Which, while it seems like a small detail, when you're making a mil sim game, while it's not quite a simulator, it is still a military combat game, and I feel like that's something really important to have in the game, especially when it's a military game and it's Battlefield. It's not like they hadn't made games before. Again, this was Battlefield 3. So it's a bit of an older game. Yeah, I know that. However, again, it's Battlefield 3. They'd already made Battlefield 1, Battlefield 2, Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2. I can't remember, but I think there was a third one too. And I think Hardline might have been made as well before this game. I'm not sure. But either way, you had Battlefield 1 and 2 and Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2 before you had Battlefield 3. So for them to not have that in the game is kind of disappointing. But beyond that, there's a couple of glitches that I experienced, not due to Wi-Fi or internet or anything like that, just by playing the game, where the game kind of like if you were trying to take out people before the game wanted you to, like you could see them, but the game didn't want you to delete them yet, then the game wouldn't let you attack them. You'd be firing and firing and firing, but the NPCs were not absorbing any of the damage you were dealing to them, which is absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I know I'm using some really stupid words to describe this, but as anybody out there knows, with YouTube these days, you got to be really, really careful because I don't want to lose anything that I'm starting to do. So, anyways, that was a really big issue for me because as I'm playing the game, I can look ahead, I know how it's going to happen, and not being able to move ahead to that situation and be able to deal with it head on was extremely frustrating for me. That's just the way I play these kind of games. I'm not sitting there trying to follow along the story, which again, that's kind of my fault. I don't play games the way they're supposed to be played. I play them the way that I feel they should be played. So instead of sitting back, following my sergeants around, walking through the story, kind of sludging through the little bit of story that there is in this game, I'm like running ahead of everybody, trying to get into combat situations as fast as possible, trying to clear things before my buddies even show up, stuff like that. And I love to do that. But because I did that, it kind of broke the game. So I guess if I played the game the way it was intended, I might not have run into those issues. But either way, I feel like you shouldn't be able to run into those kind of issues. So that was kind of disappointing as well. I had some other issues just like with how doors were being broke down, the way the military mechanics worked. Some of the characters weren't calling out enemy positions, even though they would like much later. They were not communicating as a team, things like that. And again, when you're playing a military game, I feel like that's really quite a letdown. Sorry about that. That's my camera. Uh, so again, I feel like it's a really big letdown. It just is because it's not that hard to figure out where this stuff comes from. there's a lot of data out there for military stuff, and I feel like you could easily find the information if you wanted to look for it. But overall, I played the remastered version, so the graphics were amazing. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's not like it was a 4K game, but it was pretty good. And again, I loved the combat. I loved the fighting for the most part. There were some glitches, but that was about it.